Did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
Well, what I want to get at is, what were you experiencing as you were going through the debate? Did you know how badly it was going?
Hi, this is Ann Coulter. This is my 5 things you need to know this week. For July 8th, it will be on Ricochet and streamed on my Substack, Unsafe, AnnCoulter.substack.com. This will be heavily about what's going on with the Democrats. I've been in the Hamptons the last week, and other subjects came up, and it was kind of getting to me because I'm just obsessed with this. That debate, know what, we've already discussed it, but that is something that's going to be for the history books. There's never been a presidential debate that rocks the election like this before. You know, Gerald Ford gave away, freed Poland from the Iron Curtain. You had Ronald Reagan getting lost on the California freeway. Obama was pummeled by Romney. There was nothing like this before. A lot of the Democratic donors in the Hamptons, and they absolutely, many of them couldn't even watch to the end of it. They are absolutely wanting to get rid of him. So it won't be all about that. We'll get around to the elections in France, which I just discussed with Ryan Girdusky on my Substack. We got something wrong about that, but a lot of things right. So first, Biden's call to Morning Joe.
Because I've got a pretty good political instinct and eye. And here's the deal. It's not going to happen here this time around. The American public is not going to move away from me as an average voter. And again, I'm here for 2 reasons, pal. One, to rebuild the economy for hardworking middle-class people, give everybody a shot. Just a straight shot. Everybody gets a fair chance, number one. Number two, remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support? Come on, give me a break. Come with me. Watch. I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more. But any of these guys don't think I should run against me. Go ahead, announce the president. Challenge me in the convention.
If you missed it, that's a small segment of it. From now on, voters are going to be paying very careful attention to how Biden sounds, and he sounds drunk in that clip. He makes a few points. It goes for 18 minutes. I'll invite you to listen to the whole thing yourself, though I'll play a couple more clips now. He sounded like a drunk person making clips. We've never had a president who sounded like this. A lot of the same old repetition and the belligerent Joe Biden. Come on, Mika, give me a break. I mean, he's a liar. And by the way, Trump's a pathological liar. Said you spoke to Putin before he invaded. Look, and the fact is, come on. Not a joke. All of that except said, I'd have to take a few shots to do it properly here. I don't know if you know, but dementia isn't something that gets better with time. This is just an absolute unmitigated disaster for the Democrats. After their 18-minute interview with the demented Joe Biden, in case you were not tuned to MSNBC, Joe immediately threw it to Al Sharpton. You, Al Sharpton, as, of course, the most revered, honored man in America. What did you think of that? Well, all of the honorifics to Sharpton must have been a little uncomfortable because Donnie Deutsch was sitting there. Yet and still, this is shaping up to be, well, let me play one more clip from the 18-minute call that Biden made in to Morning Joe this morning.
This guy is going to make sure that he exacts revenge. This guy's going to destroy democracy. This guy's going to give a blank check to the Supreme Court and going to use its past, the 2025 agenda. You know, this guy's extremely dangerous. But you notice he doesn't speak up for what he really is for. He's all of a sudden realizing, oh my God, nobody's for what I'm for. But anyway, look, and again, think of the things he lied about. He talked about he gave the largest tax cut in history. Yeah, he gave the largest tax cut in history to millionaires and billionaires. So he said that he's going to, those 10% universal tax proposal is not going to drive prices higher. Every major economist in the world is saying it's It's going to drive the average $2,500 per person. Only jobs we created for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs and bounce back from COVID. Give me a break.
Mr. President, please look at what's happened. Recognize that the reality out there may not be the same thing you're hearing from the circle of your closest friends and family, and consider putting our country first.
Will the Democrats dump Biden? I have at least 2 nickel bets that they will dump Biden. But I have to say, a couple of my very smart friends are insistent that they absolutely will not dump Biden and Trump will win in a landslide. Now, you don't have to believe Trump will win in a landslide to say they're not going to dump Biden. Their argument is that it's impossible at this stage. The rules don't allow it. Biden won't be able to move the money over. It's just too complicated. A floor fight or a fight among the donors, it's just going to get so messy. Black people will be furious. If you've noticed, the only people standing by Biden right now do seem to be Black people. So this entire fight is a fight between the Blacks and the Jews, and they are the 2 most important constituencies of the Democratic Party. We'll see who wins. My bet's on the Jews. So my argument for them dumping him is that the New York Times, the donors, are 100% opposed to Biden. They think they're going to lose. And as you may know, the Democrats will do anything to replace their candidate if they think that candidate is going to lose. I mentioned Bob Torricelli last week. There was nothing wrong with him. He wasn't demented. He didn't have a medical condition, but he was running for re-election in New Jersey, and he was down in the polls. So he was about to lose, and Democrats didn't want to lose a Senate seat. So they took, even though it was very clear that the time had passed, it was long past time under New Jersey election law. Under state law, they could not replace him. So the Democrats just take it to the New Jersey Supreme Court, which happened to be governed by a lot of Democratic appointees. And they said, nope, we're going to let you replace him. So remember that when you hear about our Supreme Court being activist and just doing whatever the Republicans want. Oh, no, the Democratic courts do whatever the Democrats want. Another one, they ran a dead man in Missouri. Mel Carnahan was running for Senate against John Ashcroft. I forget what year, sometime in the 90s, I think, after he had been AG. Doesn't matter. Mel Carnahan died in a plane accident shortly before the election. Before the election, by the way, Ashcroft was way ahead in the polls. Both of them had been governors. Ashcroft was a more popular governor. He had also been senator. Ashcroft was ahead in the polls, but out of sympathy, the dead man was allowed to stay, or he had to stay on the ballot. And the lieutenant governor who replaced Carnahan said, I'll appoint Carnahan's widow to the seat if you vote for him. So then out of an excess of sentimentality, the voters of Missouri voted for Carnahan. Democrats are happy to leave a dead man on the ballot in order to win a seat. One more, an obscure one you may not know about, but it's probably the most egregious. It's just classic Democrat. This was 1984. Republican won a House seat in, I don't know if he's running for re-election, but anyway, it was 2 Irishmen running against one another. The Republican was McIntyre. The Democrat was McCloskey. McIntyre, it was first ruled for the Democrat McCloskey. Turned out, everyone admitted, that was because of an accounting error. And once you remove the accounting error, no, the Republican McIntyre had won, in both cases by less than 100 votes. So they did a full recount, and turned out the Republican won by even more. I believe they may have done a few more recounts every time the Republican wins. So it goes to Congress. I mean, there was nothing to go to Congress. The Republican had won. Tip O'Neill, Speaker of the Democratic House, simply refused to seat the Republican and said, nope, we're taking McCloskey. So Democrats will do anything they need to get Biden off the ticket if they think they will lose with Biden. And I do kind of think they will lose with Biden. Senility, again, does not get better with age. As time goes by, he's not going to get better. But I guess we'll see. Maybe this is a stupid point because I'm just talking about something that's going to happen in the future, and we'll all know one way or another, but I'm kind of obsessed with it because it is really, really important to what's happening to the world, who the next president will be, of the most important country in the world. So if they do get rid of Biden, point 3, whither Kamala?
I see Joe Biden when the cameras are on and when the cameras are off. In the Oval Office, negotiating bipartisan deals. I see him in the Situation Room, keeping our country safe. On the world stage, meeting with foreign leaders who often ask for his advice.
Will they go with Kamala Harris? Unless she can be privately persuaded to accept being vice president again, which seems like a good idea to me, or to step aside. Kamala is definitely pulling the angry black woman act, even though she's, half Indian, half non-American black. But for Democrats, that's close enough. She's not an ideal choice. All she talks about is blacks and women. Recall she attacked Biden himself as a racist for not supporting busing in San Francisco while lying about being a victim of busing or a beneficiary of busing, remember? And that little girl was me when, in fact, she was in, I think she was in Montreal in high school. She had very wealthy and I think her father was a professor. Her mother was some form of scientist. She was not relying on, the sweet ministrations of liberals in Oakland. She was up in Montreal. And I don't even think there was busing in Oakland. Segregation was never really a problem in the Bay Area. But if they insist on Biden and Kamala, I think Republicans are standing in good stead. Biden can't talk, and you have cackling Kamala. She has really not done any favors for herself in the last few weeks, where she's been trying to act presidential, as the New York Times noted this weekend. Big article in the New York Times reintroducing Kamala, and it just seems to be about race and gender. That's what she loves talking about: abortion and showing up at big civil rights moments. As I recall, she is the one in charge of immigration and hasn't really done a bang-up job there. Her little videos on Twitter are utterly cringeworthy. The New York Times' big point on Kamala was the Republicans are going to go after her for her race and gender. Yeah, really, New York Times. There's no other reason to oppose Kamala. Nothing else to like her. Not to like about her. We're all sitting back saying, no, she'd be great. She'd be great. It's just, if only she weren't a black woman. So thanks, New York Times. So I'm thinking, maybe the New York Times is warming to Kamala. Then I read the comments on the article. I love the comments in the New York Times. And wow, the ones that were getting the biggest votes were saying, you got to be strategic, Democrats. Kamala's going to lose. How about Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania? We have a lot of governors in swing states that were very popular, and that got 500 people to recommend it. Read through the comments, and at least New York Times readers are not going to be happy if the Democrats get rid of Biden and stick with Kamala. So point 3, if it's not Kamala, I say the replacement cannot be Gavin Newsom because he's a white man. A lot of people, I was persuaded recently by my friend Heather McDonald that Newsom would actually be a good candidate for the Democrats. I did not think so. I thought he seemed a little smarmy. And of course, he has a terrible, terrible record on many things in California. But she said, there won't be enough time to get that out. He's a big greenie. The Democratic base loves all these crazy environmental issues. So he is smooth. And the soccer moms, they're not that bright. So he could be a great candidate for the Democrats. But again, white male, can't do it. This is the new feminized, racialized Democratic Party. They really do hate white people, especially white men. That's not a joke. They really hate them. Remember how Hillary would use, actually, I think all Democrats and MSNBC types, they use white as an intensifier. It's almost the same way Hannity uses literally. Hillary said something about, remember she was going around saying how Trump has an odd affection for white dictators. What white dictators? I think there's one in the entire world. White in that sentence is just supposed to say, bad, white, bad. That's the synonym. So I think it's probably got to be Gretchen Whitmer, who is everything I hate about the Democratic Party. You talk about the feminized Democratic Party. If they were smart, they'd run someone like Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, Andy Bashir from Kentucky. He's handsome, articulate, nice family. He won in a very red state, a state Trump won by about 20 points against conventional wisdom. He's the kind of Democrat that I think a lot of people who aren't comfortable with either candidate would consider voting for. But Democrat, and same thing with Josh Shapiro. He's done some surprising things. He has stood up to the far left of his party. Yes, he is a somewhat more recent governor, but these are two guys who could actually win moderate votes, could probably win over some Republicans. Sorry, can't consider them. They're white men. This does end up being a plus for the GOP. We don't have a whole lot going for us, at least until we are no longer the Trump party. But the Democratic Party's anti-white maleness will not permit them to just look around and run the best candidate. Anytime there's a Senate opening, if there's a presidential opening, the Democratic Party's first question is, it's the black woman, right? Really? Is that the best we have? You're in Montana. She was comptroller in Missoula, but we ran a black woman for governor. Nope. Gotta be a black woman. It's not, I should add, the blackness that's the problem, but looking around the country, it appears that you cannot be a black politician in America without endorsing crazily unpopular ideas. Defund the police, reparations, mass socialism every place, so on and so on and so forth. In Minnesota, the Democratic Farm Labor Party, it is part of their platform. It has to be even Steven until men and women are equal to one another in all positions in the party, in all races, in all delegate selection, then we will not consider a man. Same thing on race. We need a perfect balance of race, ethnicity, national origin, color, creed, ethnic identity, sexual orientation. And then there's an entire, 20 pages of exceptions for what you do with the transgenders. So that's fun. One thing that the Republicans can cling to is that a party in the grip of zealots in terms of race and gender is not going to be running the most sensible candidate to run. There's even a chance, as I've written about recently, available on my Substack, that weirdly former Governor Hogan could win in the very, very Democratic state of Maryland, but because the Democratic Party couldn't pick the best Democrat to run against him. Sort of a stealth candidate, white male, lots of money, spent $6 million on his primary. But nope, there was, I guess, the equivalent of a mayor who was a black woman, and she wanted to run for Senate. So all the Democrats had to come out and endorse her. She's the one Hogan's running against. We'll see. It's a very Democratic state.
Hey, James Lalix here for Ricochet.com. It's July, the big midpoint of the year, the big hinge. Is anything going on? Well, sometimes people call this silly season. I can't say if it's silly or not. I can tell you that it's serious stuff when it comes to politics because a big election is coming up. Good thing Ricochet is here with a remarkable panoply of people to talk about what's going on politically and culturally. And thank heavens there's Ricochet.com itself with the member feed where we can get together and talk about the events of the day with a like-minded group of sane, civil, center-right folk. Join it and see the place you've been looking for all your days on the internet. Ricochet.com. And happy July.